Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Misa and today I am doing the last 10 books tag. I was tagged by Jack from Spread Book Joy, whose videos I've been getting into so much lately. Her idea of her channel is to spread the joy of reading, which I love. She has great reviews and she's a teacher just like me. So if you haven't checked out her videos yet, I highly recommend you doing so. I will leave a link to her channel down below. Before I get started, I should also mention that the original video was created by Marc Nash, so I will leave a link to his original video down below as well. And now let's get into the questions. The first question is the last book you didn't finish. So I'm interpreting this to mean the last book that I intentionally DNF'd. And I was never a person to DNF books until about 5 years ago. I never thought that I was even allowed to do that. So I would trudge on through books that I wasn't even enjoying all this while. But it was only after I came across the book called Book Last by Nancy Pearl, which is a book about books. And she talks about just DNFing books that you're not enjoying. And I couldn't even grasp that concept for quite some time. But recently I have become a serial DNF person, so I have a lot I can talk about on this list. Recently, I've already mentioned this in another video, but I put down Maya by Jostein Gaarder because I need a break from this author, but I have every intention to come back to that book. Whereas the other one I'm going to talk about is this resounding DNF, and that one was The Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, which I'm so disappointed with. I love the Studio Ghibli movie and I especially love the music from that one. But I had an interest in reading Diana Wynne Jones ever since reading Neil Gaiman give high praise of her writing. So I went on a Kindle buying frenzy recently and bought 5 of her books. This is the first one I'm trying, and of course Howl's Moving Castle is a trilogy, so I have the whole set, but I don't think I'll be continuing on. So it's such a waste, isn't it? I really have to stop buying multiple books by the same author that I haven't even tried yet. The second question is the last book you reread, and this one is Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marston, which I mentioned in my previous video, and it is the first book in a YA series, so I really enjoyed this one. I am currently revisiting all the books I've read before I started my channel because I think I used to read quite superficially, so I'm trying to change that so that I can talk about books a bit better in my videos. And on top of that, I think there are quite a number of books that I don't remember reading. Sometimes I pick up a book to read that I don't think I've read before, but halfway through I'm like, hang on, I've read this before and I don't recall because I don't keep a journal, and this is in the days before the internet. I think there are quite a number of books like that, so I am trying to reread everything in my collection at the moment so I can refresh my memory. The next question is the last book you bought, and for this I have 2 books. It just arrived yesterday, so this is not technically my most recent purchase, but it's my most recent arrival. Alright, here's the package, and this came from Kinokuniya Malaysia, and shout out to them because they have a great service. I initially ordered this to pick up in store like 6 weeks ago, and since that time we've gone into lockdown and I'm not allowed to travel out of my district to collect these books, so I emailed them and they actually couriered it to me, so that's amazing. So let's just unwrap these books. Alright, here are the 2 books that arrived yesterday, and the first one of those is the Kim Ji-young Born 1982 by Cho Nam-chu. And I'm really interested in reading this one because I've been seeing it all over booktube, but also this is the year that I was born. Just for that simple fact alone, my interest was piqued already, so I'm really excited to read this. And the second book that arrived is called The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall, which was published in 1928 and was a banned book because it is about a lesbian romance, and I think it's one of the earliest examples of that in literature, so I'm really interested to read this one pretty soon. Question 4 is the last book you said you read but you didn't. Okay, so I don't really have books like that. The only one that I can think of is one of my high school reads, which was Watership Down by Richard Adams, and I don't know, I couldn't get into it at the time. I have since read it and loved this book. In our English class we also watched the animated version of this, so I thought that was enough, and so I never read the book. Question 5 asks for the last book that you wrote in the margins of, and the answer to that would be never, because I don't write in my books. The closest that I've come to doing that would be to make notes on my Kindle or take screenshots of the book and then write on my iPad what I thought about the passage, or I put tabs on the pages, but I would never physically write in the book. The only time I would actually write inside published material would be for musical scores, but even then only in pencil. The next question is the last book you had signed. And again, this is never, because I've never been to a book event to meet an author, or I've never made a point to look for any signed copies of books. But this does not apply to CDs and musicians, because every time I'm attending a concert of a famous soloist or something, I'll always bring my CD along to have autographed. So the most recent one of those was Vladimir Ashkenazy, who was here in KL a few years ago. I don't remember when, but I always love doing that and meeting the artist. Question 7 is the last book you lost, and that is Mozart's Women by Jane Glover. This is a book that I have been looking for all over my house for the last few months, and I have absolutely no reason why it should be missing, but it is. It's a great book, by the way, if you haven't read it. I highly recommend that one, and I'm really hoping to reread it soon. So yes, I hope it turns up soon. Question 8 is the last book you had to replace, and well, Mozart's Women is going to end up on this list if it doesn't show up soon, but I can't say that I've ever had to replace any novels or reading material. I always have to replace scores of sheet music because people borrow my books and they don't return them. So the most conspicuous one of those is the last volume of Schubert's Piano Sonatas, and I haven't replaced it yet, but I need to soon because I have to use it for work. And I remember the person who borrowed it and never returned it, and in what kind of context. So it's been over 15 years, I think, so I don't think I'm ever going to get it back. And also because I don't live in the same country as that person anymore. But that person's always going to have this book that's got my name on it in big writing on the front cover. Question 9 is the last book you had an argument over, and I have to say I never get into arguments about books in the first place, but I do have some bookish friends in real life who have a really different reading taste to me, so we have a clear disagreement on some authors like Haruki Murakami. The last question is the last book you couldn't get hold of, and that one is Stormy Weather, Music and Lives of the Century of Jazz Women by Linda Dahl. I was looking for this book sometime last year, and it wasn't available for purchase at the time, even on Kindle, but in the lead up to this video, I was looking up about it, and I just discovered that it is now available on Kindle, so this problem is solved. Alright, those were my answers for the last 10 books tag, and thank you again to Jack for tagging me. I'm going to finish today by tagging 3 booktubers: Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot, Kim from Middle of the Book March, and Freddie from Sluggish Reader. So I hope you haven't done this tag. I did check, but I'm sorry if you've done it, but I'd love to know your answers to these questions. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!